7:59. We'll go ahead and get started shortly. I think everyone's on. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this Monday morning, November 1st? Happy November to everyone. I will go ahead and start our public safety meeting. This morning is our West Hartford Public Safety Committee meeting. This committee meeting will be available for live viewing on the WHCI YouTube channel. This is a virtual meeting, and today is Wednesday, November 1st, and the time is now 8 o'clock. I will recognize everybody around the virtual screen. I see both Chief Priest and Chief Riddick, Town Manager Rick Ledwith, Robert Gamaldi, who is our Chief Marshal, Fire Marshal. I see Chief Priest and the rest of his team there, and I'm sure he'll introduce the person who is there in place of AC O'Callahan. We have our Town Councilor, Alberto Cortez. We have Town Councilor Tiffany McGinnis. We have AC Riccabon on. And it looks like Mayor Cantor may be on. Mayor, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, Mayor Cantor is on by phone. And I think that's it, other than Jerida Reinheimer as our administrative assistant. And I see another name here, Sarah Pryor. All right.
That's my operations assistant in the
All
office
right.
at the PD.
Welcome this morning. All right, so we'll go ahead and open up the meeting. But, you know, this has been weighing heavy on my heart. I can't open up the meeting without acknowledging, especially since this is a public safety meeting, yet another mass shooting in Maine. And I always think of all of you because I know what a close-knit family you all are. And I was thinking that perhaps many of you may know the first responders who were involved in responding to this terrible, terrible tragedy. Once again, it seems like whenever we meet, there is some tragedy that occurs right before we meet. If I remember last month, it was an incident at Morgan State. And then this month, there's a big incident in Maine where many lives were lost, far too many. One is too many. But in this case, there was 18 people who lost their life senselessly at a bowling alley, who were out just having fun and enjoying one another. It just really pains me because it seems like all of the American pastimes that we grew up with are slowly but surely being eroded. And I think of our youth and their experiences and how sad that they are not able to enjoy this type of experiences and joys that we have had growing up. And it's just sad. It's a sad time. And we as a country have so much work to do. And I just really hope that we can address this issue of this mass gun violence and these assault weapons to get them out of the hands of not only people who are mentally challenged, but just remove them, period, because they really have no place in our civilized society. We're not at war and we're not battling a war, just going about our everyday lives. So I don't want to go on because I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but I really and truly think of all of you because you're the first responders. And when you get on the scene, you are just faced with all of this horrific violence, tragedy, um, people whose bodies are basically just torn apart. And then I also think of our first responders when they arrive in the hospital and how our doctors and nurses have to respond to these just gut-wrenching surgeries, even if they can even repair um, people who have been injured by such force of the weapons. So I'm going to take the chair's point of privilege and just ask all of us to just pause in a moment of silence to think of not only the first responders, our hospital personnel, but the families whose lives are forever changed. Just a moment, please. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me. And then one other thing, I do just want to acknowledge Chief Riddick before the end in terms of the event that was held last month in Earl Exum's honor. I just want to say a great job to you, Chief Riddick, and your team. And I also want to acknowledge Chief Priest and his team as well. Just thank you all for what you do. Not only keeping our town safe, but also recognizing that you're also part of the community and bring these types of activities and awareness so that we all can enjoy and also feel protected. So thank you again for all the work that you do. All right, so the first, and I also want to acknowledge Councillor Poland, who's joined us as well. First order of business is under our business items, our communications, and I will toss it over to our town manager, Mr. Rick Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone, and appreciate your opening comments, Madam Chair. And I first just wanted to take a moment as well to thank our police and fire department for their response to our rally to support Israel that took place on October 9th here at the town hall, as we welcomed around 1,000 residents and supporters, as well as our governor, Senator Murphy's and Blumenthal, as well as our local delegation, and of course our town council, all brought together to show our community's support to Israel. Our police and fire departments worked hard over the course of less than 24 hours to ensure that West Hartford was absolutely the safest place in the state to hold this rally. As we think back to those terrorist attacks that took place on October 7th, and the various threats that had been made to members of our community, our police department has responded, as they always do, with all hands on deck to ensure that everyone in our community remains safe. So a big thank you to both our chiefs and their respective leadership teams, as well as police officers and firefighters who, as always, are there to protect us. As far as I have a second update. Pleased to report, I did report last month that we had applied for a Safe Streets for All grant. And we were informed earlier this week that the town was one of 6 towns in the state to receive a Safe Streets for All grant. And actually West Hartford was the only town of those 6 requesting a grant to implement a speed management pilot program. As we discussed last month, this program will look to change driver behavior in town. This will include the purchase of and installation of 15 speed cameras, management of the citations for speeders who are issued an infraction, and as well as development of an overall speed management program, which will build upon our town's Vision Zero action plan, which is nearing the final stages of development of that plan. The total amount of that award is $670,000. And we are awaiting some administrative guidelines from the State Department of Transportation And as we continue to work to implement this program, we will certainly keep this committee apprised, as well as the town council as a whole, as we look to roll out this program. So that's it for me this morning in terms of communications. I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair, for any questions that you or the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith, and thank you to all of those who submitted that grant and made this happen. I know that we were discussing this for quite some time, so it's really happy to learn that we were awarded, and we will be implementing this very soon. Thank you again to everybody. I know there is a lot of hard work that went into this, and so I always like to acknowledge the team, because as the two chiefs and yourself, Mr. Ledwith, always state, it's just not you all that's involved, but there's a whole team behind you. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee members or any others? No? Okay. All right, so then why don't we move on to our staff reports and our updates, and we'll start with Chief Priest and his team for the fire department updates. Chief Priest, you're on mute.
How about now? There we go. I think we should be back on. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Counselor, Mayor, members of the council, the Public Safety Committee, and my peers. I'd just like to thank you for your comments, Counselor Blanks. Very salient and well placed when we're watching kind of these events across the country. So thank you for recognizing that. You alluded to a new person sitting to my right. I have interim Assistant Chief Bill Beebe is with me. He is filling in for Assistant Chief O'Callahan while he's out on medical leave. Hugh is doing well. He should be back shortly, but I really want to thank Bill for stepping up and assisting us, because the Assistant Chief of Operations role is critical to the continuity of our organization. So thank you, Bill. Glad you're here with us today. I do have a written report submitted. I will go over a few things today, perhaps a little bit of commentary on some of the items, open it up for any questions that you may have of me after that. The first is I'd like to thank all those who were able to make our promotional ceremony. We recognize quite a few hires and promotions recently, with the most recent being Lieutenant Sean Howard and Apparatus Operator Heather Wilson. They've embarked upon their new careers. Or their new positions, and really looking forward to seeing both those members and others succeed in their new roles. We've had some assignment changes as well. I'm joined by Deputy Chief Eric Munsell, who is coming into the Training and Support Services Division. You'll see him joining us on Public Safety Committee meetings as well. It's a new role for him. Looking forward to seeing him take on some new responsibilities. So last month, I spoke about our Prep for Success class, as well as how we've been working with paramedic students to attract a great candidate pool for the West Hartford Fire Department. I am pleased to tell you that we brought in several candidates for some open positions. And actually, the majority of the candidates that presented to me at the final stage had either participated in that Prep for Success class or had ridden with us as paramedic students. And that was wonderful to really see those results coming forward in the candidates that are being presented. And I think Chief Riddick will probably agree with me on this one, but as the chief, sometimes we're in a position in the organization to make changes and try and make our personnel's lives better. So we sometimes hear what's wrong or what needs to be fixed. That's kind of our leading edge. That's what our job is, to go in there. It's not really bad. I mean, that's just what it is that we do for the organization. But I have to tell you, one of the most humbling experiences as the chief is when you're sitting in and you're talking to a new candidate who is telling you about why they want to come to this organization and serve this community. And the first thing that they tell you is I want to come here because when I rode along, or when I came to the class, I saw the passion, I saw the people who were in this organization, what they were doing, and they inspired me to want to come join this department. And that's from the heart. They have no vested interest to tell me that. So it's wonderful. I mean, one of the candidates told me, hey, this is how your organization works. I went to a motor vehicle accident. It's a very simple motor vehicle accident. There was an elderly female involved in an accident, And afterwards, we realized that your company recognized that there were groceries in the back seat of the car. So they helped get those groceries all the way back to that lady's house. Now, here's the thing. I'll never know about that as the chief. Those are the things that just don't make it onto my desk. But when you're hearing that raw, unadulterated, like what's happening out in the street, it really makes me proud as the chief, and really optimistic about our future. But it speaks to our personnel. So really happy to report that. I think that we have now filled our department. In fact, we've prepared for some pending vacancies as well. So that's a testament and a kudos to the town manager, finance director, and to HR's foresight, so that we keep our department staffed and ready to go. Our candidate pool looks excellent. And my hope as the chief is that we're running EMR classes right now in the schools. My hope is that I'm able to see a student come in soon and tell me about their experiences coming through the high school and getting their EMR certification. And that's why they want to come join the department. So that's the next variation. In terms of notable projects or activity, I'd also like to kind of restate something that I've said before many times. I think this community has something really unprecedented, which is the relationship between the police department and the fire department, and how we're constantly evolving and working together at different types of incidents. We have worked together at planned and unplanned events. One of the recent events, we deployed our tactical medics for the first time, which are embedded medics into the police department emergency services unit. And that is a direct testament to the leadership and foresight of Chief Riddick and his staff, welcoming in a medical asset in there. So again, you know, I know we have a lot of jokes and we always mess around a little bit on the public safety committee meetings, but I can't be more serious when I tell you, I think this town is really lucky to watch not just how Chief Riddick and I operate, but how all of the members of the department actually work when that happens out on the street, when they're in unified command and doing different things and supporting. So my compliments to the police department on their willingness to interact with us. This comes up, the next topic comes up as a result of some communication from the state DOT to the mayor regarding an agreement that we have regarding highway standpipes. They're pieces of pipe, for lack of a better term, kind of like break it down to its most elementary thing is there are pieces of pipe that allow a fire truck on a residential street to bring water down into the highway so that we can more effectively and quickly mitigate any sort of fire incident occurring out there. The primary goal and reason for highway standpipe is to make sure that we can traffic clear and to mitigate the incident more quickly than other methods where we might have to bring water up onto a highway. The state is looking to assert compliance with a very old agreement that the town entered into, where the town would be responsible for the maintenance and testing of those standpipes out on the highway. It's very labor intensive, it's complicated, it's logistically challenging, and there is likely to be a cost associated with that. So we are, I would say, not necessarily in agreement with the state DOT's policy in this matter. We believe that the standpipes are something that is a state asset that helps their priorities in terms of traffic clearance. The fire department has the opportunity to bring water up on the highway and other means. So we are working right now with the state fire service professional organizations in consultation with the town manager. We've also started working with CCM to look at this, and also Corp Counsel to look at the agreement that the town has. So we will continue to work through this process to look at the funding, to look at the risk, and to make sure that we're appropriately protecting the community, or the motoring public, shall I say. The worst case scenario for us would be that those standpipes are ultimately decommissioned and brought down off of the highway structures that are in town. And but what I can assure you is the fire department has other means to be able to protect the motoring public. We can get water up there. It is just more disruptive and may take longer. So moving on to a little bit of our forecasting and upcoming projects, I appreciate the town manager and finance for their recent discussions with me regarding the replacement of some of our heavier apparatus. We are currently working in a loaned engine, meaning another community has been very kind and generous to allow us to use their apparatus, while we are struggling with some maintenance issues and just trying to keep our frontline apparatus up. So we are working with the town manager to look at a reserve apparatus, but in addition, looking at our capital replacement plan to make sure that we're appropriately planning for the future. So our obligation in the fire service as well, not just to come to the town manager and look for additional money. We are certainly looking for how it is that we can maintain and reduce the workload on the apparatus that are suffering from repairs. We're certainly a very busy department. We're watching community growth in many areas. And we are at the point where we should be starting to consider whether or not we have the right staffing to ensure that we can reduce the wear and tear on the heavier apparatus and make sure that we're deploying to our lighter vehicles to some of our EMS. So we'll have a continued conversation with the town manager about that as we move into budget season. Along the lines of our heavy apparatus request, though, I know sometimes people see the cost of fire trucks. Fire trucks are going up. It can be shocking to the conscience. How can the fire department want so much money? But we're also, looking forward, and we are looking at our light vehicle status. I've reported on this several times, but in essence, we are becoming a more complex organization. We're a very busy organization. We've built a stronger bond with our community as we've come out of the pandemic, and we've deployed community support officers. We've increased staffing in our fire inspector's office, as well as we've grown our emergency management program, including our CERT team, and that drives the need for additional light vehicles. So it's they are two independent, but they're both pressing needs for the organization. By pressing, I just mean these are the topics that you will see me presenting on at our budget meetings, but I wanted to give the sensory awareness to our public safety committee, who I know is interested in what our needs are in the fire service. So continuing on, the getting the right resources to the people out on the front lines. We're looking forward to a public safety study that should be coming out soon, and we're again working in collaboration with the town manager to assess that and then come up with a good plan moving forward into the future. So if I step back from forecasting our financial needs and our capital costs, I wanted to end on a note regarding the squad concept, which is our fire apparatus that was kind of morphed into a vehicle that does more of our rescue type activities and response, and the associated training that went into bringing our staff up to speed on that. With many thanks to plenty of those who are in the room with me as well. Through some grant funded training, we now have rope rescue, we have equipment on the squad. And then the other day, as noted in my report, we had a fairly extensive extrication of a person off of a second floor of a building that put all of those skills to use and those equipment and that training. So Chief Monsell, hats off to you and your shift. He was the incident commander. But with that, I thought that would be a good way of ending my remarks today, to show you that there's some evidence that we are providing an excellent service to our community through all these new moves and the things that we're doing. With that, I'll complete my report and be glad to answer any questions that you may have of me.
Thank you, Chief Priest. That was quite a thorough report. Before I ask you my questions, I'm going to go to the committee members and ask if they have any questions for Chief Priest. Councilor Cortez, do you have a question? You're on mute. Yep.
With regards to the light vehicles, what is the typical turnaround for those vehicles? If we're thinking ahead, if we wanted to order one today, how long would we expect for it to come in, to have hands on it?
Thank you, Councilor. That is a moving target for us. Depending on the type of vehicle that we are asking for, sometimes we can find it on a lot somewhere quickly. We're watching that light vehicle supply chain open up a little bit more. Our consideration in the fire department is, once we find the vehicle, we just need to make sure that it's outfitted appropriately for whatever task it's been hired to do. For example, if it's an advanced life support truck, we outfit it a certain way so that the paramedics on the truck have the right equipment and the right configuration of the cab. So with that, hopefully it answers your question. I don't have a real specific for you. I do know that there is a lead time on it. When we talk about heavier apparatus, that's an entirely different story. The career chiefs is watching this very closely. The fire service is struggling with really extended durations for the time of order to the time of delivery. In some cases, we're hearing 3 to 4 years from the time that you placed an order. That is, staggering in terms of how much lead time you have to prepare, both financially, but also on your current existing apparatus. And that bodes the question of, why it is I'm talking to the town manager and our fire mechanic about possibly looking at a used engine to bridge the gap to the time that we get the next new apparatus. But thank you for the question. As you know, part of my strategy is to be so comprehensive that nobody can ask any other questions.
No, I appreciate you, and I understand that even like a basic bus could take a year from order to receive. So I can't imagine the heavier vehicles. And I know that the light vehicles are so specific to each, house or duties, that those might be time consuming as well. Thank you.
Councilor Cortez, any other questions? Mayor, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I just want to emphasize the comments that Chief Priest made about the cooperation and the coordination and the forward-thinking strategy with the police department, and is so needed. And in this day of so many challenges coming at communities, and it's invaluable. And thank you so much. And Councilor Cortez, I had the same question, so thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, Mayor. So Chief Priest, I have some questions, and I'm so happy that I'm a member of Public Safety and I have the privilege of chairing this committee, because every time we meet, I always learn something new, which is just great and wonderful, because when I see your staff, team, personnel out and about, I have a really good idea of what you all are doing. So in terms of, and correct me if I'm not getting the word right, did you say standpipe? Is that what it's called? STAND pipe? So can you give me an idea, because when I listen to what you just said in terms of going up on the highway, and I see what your team does in terms of the vehicles and the apparatus. So what number of personnel are usually deployed to do something like what you just described?
Counselor, thank you for the question, but most of all, thank you for always asking questions and being very interested in what it is that we do. I appreciate that. I know the men and women of the fire department appreciate engaged counselors like the folks that we have here. So with specific regards to the highway, it depends on the type of incident that we're being dispatched to, but when we are on the highway, we are adding additional personnel because of the need to block for the incident that's happening. So we will put a fire apparatus in the rear to protect both the police officers and the firefighters. Then there will be whatever suppression or emergency medical services apparatus that are needed for whatever the incident is. With specific regards to the highway standpipes, that is really just a method of us getting water out there more quickly through a piece of pipe. Literally, it's just a piece of pipe that goes from a residential street over the top of a bridge. It allows us to put a fire truck up there to bring water down to a different location on the highway, such as a median area, onto a bridge structure, an overpass. And by doing that, it reduces the need to have hoses, additional fire trucks, water shuttles up there. So we would have to change the amount of apparatus that we would send up to the highway should we have a greater water need up there. If the standpipes weren't working, but it's a little bit more complicated because they are very, very low use. We don't use them often, but we go to, watching this proliferation of electric vehicles. We know that we're in a mass transit area. We know that we have several overpasses and major structures. The idea of removing something that may possibly lead to quicker traffic clearance or maybe quicker application of sustained water to one of those fires. It seems a little counterintuitive to take away something that's designed to reduce risk and to improve traffic flow. So that is one of our complications. Plus, we would have to put more resources to handle it without the standpipes, even though we use them. I can't even tell you that we've used them recently.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And then the other question I had was around the prep for success and the mix of candidates. My question was just that. So with the candidates that you identified, could you give me or the committee an idea of what that candidate pool looks like, or did I miss something?
So that is an excellent question, Counselor. So I will defer and loop back with you about what the candidate pool looks like when they were applying and going through our testing process.
Okay,
I was able to look at a certain group of candidates at the chief's level, and we're in what we would consider to be a conditional offer phase, meaning we're still in the background part.
Okay.
So it would be a little premature for me to answer what those candidates look like at the moment, or the composition, where they come from in their background, just until we verify that they are actually hired. But I was pleasantly pleased to see, people, who are excellent candidates coming in. And I know our team has worked very, very hard to go right to the source to try and get more candidates to come in through the process for us.
all right, thank you. And welcome, I want to say, is it AC Bill Bebby? Is that how you pronounce the last name? And
BB.
Beebe.
He's interim assistant chief Bill Beebe. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Welcome, interim AC Chief, Assistant Chief, and also, is it Deputy Chief, was it Mansell?
Munsell. Yep.
Munsell. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee meeting. Okay, we'll go to Chief Riddick and his team. And before Chief reports out, I just want to acknowledge that AC Tira has also joined the meeting. So I'll turn it over to Chief Riddick and your team for a police department update.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How's my audio? Just give me a thumbs up.
Very good.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Hiring and retention, we have 7 vacancies. So, and we're in the process. There's another academy that's coming up soon. So we should be okay with that, but we're all right. So that's a good thing. Pistol permits, in October of 2022, we had 18 applicants. October of this year, 20. The demographic breakdown for this year was 13 men and 7 women. Year to date for 2022, we had 241. Year to date of this year, 193. Some notable recent activities. Our Citizens Police Academy is scheduled to graduate on November 15th. I'm pleased to say that the numbers have gotten up to, we have 18 people who decided to participate in the 8-week program, and things are going well there. As we heard earlier, the town manager mentioned the grant that the town had applied for, so our accident numbers and our motor vehicle stats will follow. In October of 2022, we had 216 motor vehicle accidents and 689 motor vehicle stops. In October of this year, we're down to 210 motor vehicle accidents, and our motor vehicle stops have dipped a little bit for October to 414 stops. But year to date, we're still trending significantly higher than last year. In 2022, we had 3,735 motor vehicle stops. Year to date this year, 6,223. I'm going to skip over a couple other things here and get down to our CSU, which is our community support unit. They had 21 arrests in the month of October. And they were the ones that are out there doing our quality of life issues throughout the town and actually in the region. They recovered 12 stolen motor vehicles. On October 3rd, they had a gun arrest that led to a subsequent arrest for possession of 1 kilo of fentanyl. On October 11th, they recovered 4 stolen cars and made 6 arrests. On October 17th, 2 people were arrested for having possession of 202 bags of fentanyl. On October 19th, as part of the auto theft task force, they recovered 3 stolen vehicles and made 4 arrests. On October 23rd, our community support unit made an arrest for possession of 2 high-capacity firearm magazines. And October 28th, we had our drug take-back day, where 90 pounds were brought in on that day. Now that was down significantly from last year. Last year we had 400 pounds, so we're not really sure why there was a dip, such a significant dip this year. So we're looking into that, but we don't have an explanation at this point. Couple other really good work that our personnel have done. Our officers responded to a domestic violence complaint about a couple of weeks ago, and two parties were arrested inside of a residence. One of the people were in possession of illegal handgun and narcotics, and they also had a high-capacity magazine. And that gun was modified to be allowed to be shot in full auto. And what that means is you depress the trigger back and it just continues to fire multiple rounds. And those are illegal. Our crisis negotiation team, our emergency services unit, partnering with the EMS and FD, we had a barricaded suicidal party about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It went on for about 7 or 8 hours. Many of you probably saw that on the news. Very professional. And at the end of the day, we're able to use our crisis negotiation team members and to get this person out. And ESU used a tactical technique to coax the individual to come out without injury. And that person was committed to a hospital to get these services that he so desperately needed. I want to divert just a little bit and give kudos to the Naugatuck Police Department Police Chief, Colin McAllister, and his efforts. For those of you who probably saw some of the actions that occurred with the Naugatuck police officer with the use of force with the taser, that officer was subsequently arrested for cruelty to persons and assault third. The important part of this, and why I think the chief should be commended, is this was not reported or as a result of complaint. That was the internal mechanisms inside that police department that brought this to their attention through the review of the use of force. A first line supervisor saw that, brought it up the chain, and they brought it to the attention of the state's attorney, and the internal affairs investigation and collaboration with, paralleling with the criminal investigation goes forward, and then subsequently the state police arrest is made. So that just shows that police can police themselves if we have good leadership and people are trying to do the right thing. One thing that the West Hartford Police Department was commended for by the CPRB, the Citizen Police Review Board, was the amount of complaints that were resulted internally, not as a result of an external person, but things from our internal mechanisms and procedures that we have in place to bring these things to the attention. And we initiate our own internal affairs reports and take the proper corrective action. So kudos to them. And as Chief Priest mentioned, sometimes you deal with the bad, and as leadership, you try to provide the best environment for training, learning, and professionalism. But we are imperfect people in an imperfect society. So on occasion, you're going to have personnel who do wayward things, illegal things, and they should be disciplined or arrested appropriately. So kudos to them for that. And lastly, West Hartford is participating. You may have seen the announcement several months ago. The Department of Justice had, through the COPS grant, community-oriented policing. University of New Haven is offering de-escalation training through Dr. Lorenzo Boyd. We sent 4 officers through that training. Dr. Boyd and his team were here 2 weeks ago providing that training. And as a result of that, we have 4 officers who are, it's called train the trainer. So they have passed, they're certified, and now they can train the rest of our police department and in the region on this training. And as I speak, one of our officers, Kelly Shimo, is currently doing a training in our police department for various police departments in the region right now regarding de-escalation. And Dr. Boyd and his team is here supervising her. This is her first time that she did it. So, kudos to all of us being involved with that and the importance. And furthering the de-escalation, I also want to embarrass Assistant Chief Larry Terra. Larry Terra has been involved with DLG consulting for many, many years. He goes and he does training nationwide regarding de-escalation, laws, how to speak to people during a use of force situation is one of the blocks that he teaches. And that training is actually coming up again. We have several people coming. I think it's November 28th through the 1st, somewhere around there. So I want to give him his kudos for that. His expertise in this area is very helpful to me and the rest of the police department, and it helps us being on the cutting edge and the forefront of legal changes, best practices, and the like. So kudos to you, Larry. Thank you for your support. I greatly appreciate it, and the town does too. And not to leave Rob out, you're okay too. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. You all are never without humor, and I appreciate it. And thank you for your comprehensive report as well. You can tell with both you and Chief Priest, you all had a very busy month, and I appreciate it and appreciate the work that you do. I especially appreciate the team that responded to the suicidal complaint because that was near to where I reside. And I know a number of people had questions and had questions for your team. And so I really want to say kudos to your team because they maintained professionalism to folks who came up to them and was trying to figure out what was going on. And they also um, kept the respect of the family members and residents that was involved to just inform people that it was something that you all were working on and they could not discuss it. And so I really appreciate that and appreciate how they were able to restrict the traffic flow and work with that individual to a peaceful resolution. And again, that really is a testament to your leadership, to Chief Priest's leadership, and the training and the resources that leads up to that successful outcome. And I say that not just for the committee, but for the listening audience as well, because in March, when we are reviewing and re-reviewing our budget and trying to make a professional decision in terms of how we approve resources, these are the outcomes. These types of things that you all do every day with just responding and providing services and saving lives. So I just really felt that it was important to say that. And with that said, I will ask my committee members if you have any questions for Chief Riddick.
If I can, Madam Chair, if I can add additional commentary through you.
Absolutely.
And my apologies for not fully exploring this and mentioning this. It's important to note when that incident occurred with the barricaded party, I was on the West Coast for training, and at the time it was occurring, I was getting updates. I was getting on the plane to come back here as scheduled, and I didn't have any cell phone service, on the plane because I'm cheap. But anyways, I want to commend Assistant Chief Rickabon and AC Terra and the rest of our personnel because they had to lead. And I think one of the best examples, if you're doing something right, is when you're not there, your people handle their business. They're professional. They know what they're supposed to do. They make the difficult decisions, which the Assistant Chief Rickabon did do on the scene there. And it's on them, and they have to face the consequences at the end. The responsibility, whether I'm in phone contact or not, doesn't matter. It still rests with me. I could be in Africa. It doesn't matter. That's just the nature of this job. But they have the confidence to know that your people will do the right thing for the right reasons at the right time and for public safety and to keep the preservation of life is comforting for yours truly. And it really should be comforting for this committee as well as the residents and those who patronize the town of West Hartford. So thank you for that. And Rob, I appreciate you, ACT, Chief Priest, and everybody else, the commander of our emergency service unit, and as well as our hostage negotiation team members, crisis negotiation team members. Thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief Riddick. Any questions from the committee members? Councilor Cortez.
To you, Madam Chair. Just two comments. One, just want to echo some of the stuff that was mentioned earlier. Just how impressed I am to see our fire and police come together in the short notice. And when we gather at the town, as the town manager said, that the town hall was the safest place in Connecticut that day, and that was in a very short notice. But at the same time, the way you do it, it's not tunnel vision. The community itself is still, there's duties that other officers have to be. You can't just have every officer in that location, and just how you guys manage that is very impressive. And I've seen it, throughout time. And then you mentioned Kelly Schumo. I want to send a shout out to her. Our nursery school at the church, the kids went to Brookdale Chatfield yesterday, and something as simple as just escorting them across the street and her professionalism with those kids and interaction, those little things matter. Something as simple as just escorting them, and you just her demeanor and how she was left an impact on staff. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cortez. Any other questions or comments, Mayor or Councilor McGinnis or Councilor Poland?
Hi, this is Mayor Cantor. I had a question on the de-escalation training. Is that something that every single, that the whole department gets, or is that something where there's specialists that are called upon? Partly I'm asking this because, well, actually, somebody asked me about something they saw. There was it looked like someone that had mental illness on Farmington Avenue near a bus stop and was doing some behaviors that were really concerning, maybe a little threatening. Didn't have a gun, but was like pointing their hand like they had a gun, and there was this response from the police department, and the individual was surrounded, and whether there was that would have been appropriate for some kind of de-escalation. I just don't, I don't know whether that's something that there's experts that are called in for that, or how that works.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mayor. Not knowing the particulars of the incident that you're describing, so first I'll answer the question and then I'll get to the incident itself. That's why we're doing this training. It's train the trainer. So we have 4 officers who will be able to train our entire police department further on de-escalation. We have been participating in de-escalation for years, whether sending people out and doing part of that. So that's nothing new. And as a reminder, we with the town's assistance to you, Mayor, and the town manager, we did buy that simulator to put us through various, as you recall, various scenarios to de-escalate and to not have that first situation occur out in the field, but being in a controlled environment, we can make corrections. And getting to the specific incidents that you described and depicted, using your words, there was a mention of a weapon, I believe. You said through mannerisms, but there was no confirmation if one was there. So I don't know how the call came in. The call could have come in that the person may be armed, which would have elicited a larger response. And then once you're there, you can use de-escalation and talking and everything else. So I don't have the particulars. I will look into that. I don't know if either one of the assistant chiefs are familiar with that situation, but all of our officers get some level of de-escalation training. And that's part of our recertification, and as well as, and the newer officers get it as part of their post training. It's mandatory. And with the accountability bill, that's part of that too. So it's department wide. Now, there are no specialists because each and every day you could be called upon to do something. Now, as the situation may or may not escalate, you can bring in our social worker, social services, 211, mobile crisis, whatever the case may be. But the old days of going to a scene for an EDP, emotionally disturbed party, and immediately start yelling and screaming when you're escalating, that is not the best practices, and that's not something that we participate in. Well, let me say it's not trained.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's that is exactly what I expected, and having experienced the simulator and knowing actually the what we talked about before, I had complete I did have confidence that when they talked about that, there were indications that this was the appropriate way to react to it. So I just it's just something that I wanted to ask about. But thank you. I think that's makes complete sense to me. Thank
Hey, Mayor, any
I
other?
do have one more. I
Sure.
do have one more question. I do have to ask that in this heated environment, when there are higher levels, we're hearing about nationally, internationally, higher levels of threats of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and threats on cultural and religious institutions. And I know that I am getting a lot of a lot of outreach for more coverage and all of that. Could you just respond, Chief, on how the department's feeling and how things are going in that arena?
Listen, it's taxing. Our overtime is really high right now. Um, but we have to provide public safety. At the end of the day, we understand that the country and specifically the town of West Hartford, there are people who are concerned. There are people who are afraid. There are people who are nervous. So it's our job, it's our obligation to allay some of those fears. And most of that is done just by a police presence, just by us being out there and showing up. It's funny, it's you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. Sometimes we get criticized for, too much of a presence, and what does that mean? Well, I'd much rather be criticized for that than the latter. I'd much rather be criticized for action than inaction. We are at the synagogue. We had all houses of worship for trick or treating last night. Yours truly was out there driving around up until 8:30, quarter to 9. We had detectives out there driving around. We had our regular patrol officers interacting. So it was a two-pronged attack, right? First, you had the public community relations component, giving out candy and everything else. But there's also the whole public safety component. So while you're doing that, you're observing. Now you have your unmarked cars that are out there. Then you have your marked cars out there with their lights on. And then you got the knucklehead chief driving out there trying to be a patrol officer again. But it's all very, very important because you just don't know what's going to occur. And going back to the events of the support for Israel rally that occurred and, fire and ice and other things, that's a heavy lift. There's no ifs, ands, and buts around it. There's no way to sugarcoat that. We are in constant, whether it's those events or when situations happen across the globe that do impact us, we're in contact with our local authorities, our state authorities, CTIC, Connecticut Information Center, our federal partners. We have 2 officers, part of federal task forces. So it's constant communication. Mr. Colangelo from JCC, because sometimes they get information that we might have not have gotten yet. So we're speaking with him. It's 24/7. It's every day. Weekends. It just doesn't matter. And that's just what we do. So there's no complaints. There's no arguments. It's just the nature of the beast. That's our job. And as the leaders of the organization, we have to remind our personnel because they are human and they're working a lot of hours, and that requires us sometimes to force people to work overtime, is that's what you signed up for, to serve and protect, and that's what we do. So we will continue to do that, Madam Mayor. And listen, I know I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys know that the town manager definitely knows that, especially in his new role. But that's what we do. But it's not as easy as it seems. And to have the partnership with the FD, with the fire department, and the prior training that we have done. And sometimes, I get it. We have to worry about money, but this is why the money is spent. This is why we do these trainings. This is why we go through. This is why we're critical. So when it's game time, we're ready. Why do we have the full deployment of a drone team of 3 and 4 operators, and we got 2 drones up all over the place? We're reaching out to we don't have the bomb certified dog, but we have the state police coming in here with the sweeps, with the bomb dogs, and all these things that we have going on, where we're checking out vehicles and people hanging around, just having a conversation with them. At some point, and I'll use my words carefully, in an effort to ensure public safety to the best that you can, there has to be a compromise with civil liberties and civil rights. You can't have both. And we have to understand that. We're going to follow the law, but there has to be an understanding that sometimes it might be a little uncomfortable. And I hope I didn't go too long-winded, but thank you.
No, I appreciate that through you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that very much. But are you feeling in the last 3 weeks a difference in the activity level of demands on the department? I know things have been escalating for a while. I'm just asking specifically about these past 3 weeks.
I'm not sure if I guess the question is yes, but it hasn't been an increase for calls for service. If you're asking me, has there been a spike in anti-Semitism calls for service or anti-Semitic calls for service? It has not. But has it been an increase on our resources to provide the omnipresence of our personnel? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other questions from committee? Oh, go ahead, Councilor McGinnis, go on.
This isn't really a question. I just wanted to relay something I had heard from a community member who told me that his son did not want to attend synagogue because he was having such bad anxiety, about everything that was going on. And, finally his dad explained to him the police are there. They got there was police cars sitting outside, and he went into the service. So that's just an example of one small thing of what it meant to someone, a kid who was having really bad anxiety, to see you guys there and feel more safe. So just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you, Councilor McGinnis. Councilor Poland, do you have any questions or comments?
No, and I'll just add my gratitude to that that's already been expressed to our public safety officials, police and fire, for keeping our community safe. It's a really, really challenging time for a lot of us. And it just makes me and a lot of people that I've spoken with feel so much better knowing that we have our police and fire looking after us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Poland. Chief Riddick, it's funny that you talked about you were patrolling last evening, because I was out and about, and at the top of the meeting, I talked about the youth and how this is a sad time for them because it's like they can't be a youth like how we were. And I was a bit saddened because I said to myself, I didn't see a lot of trick-or-treaters out last night, and it just seemed really gloomy. But then I was surprised because then I saw one of our patrol cars just kind of cruising around the neighborhood, almost like a trick-or-treater on wheels. And I said, how about that? And then I saw some more trick-or-treaters walking up to the, various households and receiving candy. So that was really touching and warming because the presence was almost like, I see you and I'm here to protect you. And therefore, in terms of the children, you can feel free to just be a kid and enjoy Halloween. And it was just really nice to see how the patrol car was just kind of patrolling through the neighborhood and the streets, and just like, I'm here if you need me, but I'm also, here for, enjoyment, to allow you all to just enjoy the evening. So I'm just happy that you brought that up, that you was part of the team last night as well. So thank you for that, and thank you for saying that. I do have a question in terms of the report that you gave in terms of the motor vehicle stops and the motor vehicle accidents. And I know many of you, just like many of our town residents, we continue to see this aggressive driving in our community, in our neighborhood, and I don't know why. I really don't. The other night, or like it was getting to dusk, there was a driver who drove up our street, and he had to be going at least between 40 and 50 miles an hour. And he started from Oakwood and ended up at South Quaker. And when he got to South Quaker, he didn't even stop at the stop sign. He just kind of did that quick rolling through. And it's lucky that the kids that grew up on the street are all now young adults, and we don't have the kids on the street like we once did. And many of the neighbors, you know, are having the same discussion about the aggressive driving and seeing more cars driving fast. And I do see the patrol officers, and I do see them stopping many more cars. And so I'm just wondering, with our motor vehicle accidents and our motor vehicle stops, are there any common themes in terms of how they're getting stopped? If it's because they're on their phone, or are they doing things like, are they catching them because they're going through the stop sign or the light? Sometimes these motorists are so bold now where they actually, if they're behind a car, they can't wait. And so they jump and go to the left and then cut back in to the right, only to either get stopped at the stop sign, or they're slowing down and jetting through the stop sign. It's just unbelievable. So, you know, I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but more so for the listening audience, it just seems like people are just out of control, and I just don't know why.
If I could take the editorial liberty to insert my personal feelings, I think what you're seeing with the driving behaviors and manifestation of what's happening with our country as a whole, there's just no respect. There really is no, and I'm generalizing, but I dare someone to argue with me on this. Look at our Congress. Look what's happening, and the decorum just isn't there. The respect for offices isn't there. It's the vogue thing to do, to challenge for the sake of challenge, as opposed to challenge for the sake of progress, which is a huge difference. And you're seeing this when it comes to the vehicle. Motor vehicles throughout without going on my soapbox here, from the beginning of time since motor vehicles were incepted, it was an example of freedom. As an example of liberty, and to be able to get to A to B on your own and control your own destiny. If you really think about that, the American dream, the American car, and being out here. And now what you're seeing is you have that still, and then you have people who just don't care. I have to get where I have to get. I'm going to get here how I want to. And if you all have heard me say ad nauseum, they're doing it with their radio blasted. They're on their cell phone, and they're doing all these different things instead of paying attention to the road that they're running to. So that's what you're seeing. I don't have the specific breakdown, but we have specific grants for DUI. So we have the DUI enforcement. We have specific grants they would utilize for distracted driving. So those are part of the numbers too. And overall, our general enforcement has been increased, including all the above, and specifically speeding. And I hope that answers your question, but it really is just a change in our culture and what's happening, right now.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then I do have a question that I received from a resident. So I'm asking you this question, and also for the listening audience. A couple of evenings ago, a resident was awakened at about 1 o'clock in the morning from a car that was parked on the road in front of their house, and the engine was revving, and the music was loud, and they were a bit hesitant to call the police, and so they just kind of monitored to see if the noise would die down. And they must have listened for about a good hour, because they were wakened from their sleep and couldn't get back to sleep. And they said that they would wait and see if it would happen again before they called the police. So I'm asking this question because I'd like you to address that, and just what would be the recommendation to that resident if they encountered something like that again. And I see our patrol officers in the neighborhood, because I do go to bed late at night. So sometimes when I'm looking out the window, I do see them going up and down the street. And I did offer them a recommendation. But would you just address that in terms of, if neighbors hear something, they feel like they're awakened, they can't go back to sleep, they may be fearful in terms of calling the patrol officer for whatever reason, but what would you suggest they do? Sorry, calling the PD.
It depends on a person's tolerance level. In the example that you gave, I would argue, well, if I'm up for an hour and it's bothering me, then you should be calling. I'm not sure what monitoring means for a half hour, 45 minutes. I don't know what that means. But if you're, and I don't know the time either, so I'm assuming this is late at night, early in the morning. But as far as enforcement action, a description of the vehicle would be helpful without going outside. What color? Two-door, four-door? Is it an SUV? Is it a sports car? That's helpful for us. Make and model, if you could, again, without turning on your light or anything else, calling us at the routine number. It's not an emergency. It's not 911. Call the routine number and we will respond. The various charges that it could be: verbal warning, creating a public disturbance, really pushing that disorderly conduct if it came down to that. But we make an assessment and speak to the individual in the car and go from there. If they stop for it, we might show up and they might take off. But I think there's always something you can do. And, one of the excuses I hear sometimes, which I have to laugh because I'm in the industry, so I guess I forgot what it's like to be a regular citizen. But we don't want to bother you guys for something that's not that important. That's not your job to make a determination. It really isn't. And if you're up, half hour, 45 minutes, and you're trying to sleep, well, clearly that's a problem. There's our job specification. That's not part of it. We actually get paid to get bothered. It's up to us to filter. Now, if there's something that's truly not a police matter, then we'll have that conversation and we'll talk about it. But as the assistant chiefs will attest to, and our personnel, our captains and lieutenant, our line officers, I'll tell you one thing about West Hartford Police Department is no matter what it is, we will provide you with an answer or something one way or another. And we've had to call in some police officers who are like, well, that's not our job. I can't help you. And they just send a person away. No, we don't do that. We don't have an answer. We're going to say, hey, stand by 1 second or give me your number. We'll look into this for you. We're going to get back to you. We can always do something, whether it's in our purview or not.
Thank you, Chief Riddick. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And thank you for saying that, because that was part of my response as well. And you hit the nail on the head. It was that I don't want to bother. I don't want to bother the police department. So I'll just sort of wait it out and be inconvenienced. So I'm happy that you made that comment and that response so that people will know if you're disturbed, it's an issue and you're within your right to call the police department. And thank you for providing that information, about that detailed information, because many times people are not thinking about that. They're just calling and saying, hey, there's this car out there. So thank you for that helpful tip. All right. Any other questions or any other comments? And if not, then are there any future agenda items that the committee members would like to offer for our next committee meeting? All right. If we have nothing else, then I will call for an adjournment. And it's 9:07. I want to say, Councilor McGinnis, this might be your full Public Safety Committee meeting that wasn't less than 30 minutes. So thank you, everybody.
I had a budget meeting that was longer than 30 minutes.
All right, everyone, have a great day and enjoy your week. And please stay safe and watch each other's back. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.